Elvis impersonators have been around almost as long as Elvis was famous. In 1956, a 16-year-old Canadian named Jim Smith was on a TV show called House Party, playing a guitar and pretending to sing Elvis songs. Jim is often considered the first Elvis impersonator. Some people call them tribute artists to show respect to Elvis. Others use terms like impersonator or lookalike, but some people think these words are not nice. Not everyone cares, though. For example, Rob Langford from Alabama doesn't mind being called an Elvis impersonator, even though some people don't think it's a nice thing to say. There are so many people pretending to be Elvis that it's hard to know how many there are. It's hard to define who should be counted. Should it be anyone who looks like Elvis with sideburns and a flashy outfit? Or just people who get paid to sing and perform like Elvis? What about people who sound like Elvis but don't look like him? Or those who just dress up like him and lip sync to his songs? Should we also count people who make fun of Elvis, or women who dress up as him? There are even kids who dress up like Elvis and take pictures outside his old home, Graceland. When Elvis died, there were already 170 people imitating him. By the year 2000, this number had grown to 85,000. If this growth continues, it's estimated that by 2043, there will be over 9.4 billion Elvis impersonators in the world. It's hard to define what makes an Elvis impersonator. In 2000, a radio show called The Naked Scientists estimated that there were about 85,000 people around the world who impersonated Elvis. This is a big difference from 1977, when Elvis died and there were only about 170 people doing Elvis impersonations. Using these numbers, math experts calculated that the number of Elvis impersonators is growing by about 27% each year. If this rate continues, by 2043, there would be over 9.4 billion Elvis impersonators. This is more than the expected population of the whole Earth by that time. This would mean that almost everyone on the planet would be an Elvis impersonator, with a few extra Elvises coming from somewhere else. Rob Langford knows the local scene in Birmingham, Alabama, very well. He thinks that there are 20 paid Elvis impersonators in the city. This means that about 1 in 5,000 people in Birmingham is an Elvis impersonator at some point. In fact, there are around 100 Elvis impersonators who either live in Birmingham or are willing to travel there to perform. Because most of these impersonators are white and Birmingham has a large African American population, it's likely that the number of Elvis impersonators among white men is even higher than 1 in 5,000. According to Yahoo Music, there are supposedly 84,000 Elvis impersonators in the US. This number seems extremely high, but it comes from a claim made by Robert Sillerman, who bought the rights to Elvis Presley's brand in 2004. Sillerman said that in 2002, the BBC reported that 84,000 people listed Elvis impersonator as their main job on their tax returns. However, there's no proof that this claim is true, and it might just be a rough estimate. Despite this, it's likely that there are thousands of people around the world who make a living by impersonating Elvis. Sillerman wouldn't have invested in the Elvis brand if he didn't think it was worth a lot of money and had the potential to grow even more. People have made different guesses about how many Elvis impersonators there are in the world, with estimates ranging from 50,000 to 200,000. However, there's no official count. Butch Polston, who makes costumes for many Elvis performers, was asked to estimate the number and separate those who make a living from their performances from those who do it just for fun. Reverend Dorian Baxter is a Canadian Anglican priest who also performs as an Elvis impersonator, known as Elvis Presley. He has been a fan of Elvis since the 1950s, when Elvis first became famous. When asked if people's interest in Elvis is increasing, decreasing, or staying the same, Baxter had a strong answer. "In my opinion, it has grown a lot and keeps getting bigger," he said. He compared it to the universe expanding since the Big Bang. Baxter noticed that his shows are attracting a new generation of Elvis fans who are too young to have seen Elvis perform in person. If Colonel Parker and the Elvis estate had been able to gain control over the many singers performing Elvis songs, it might have stopped the growth of Elvis tribute shows. In his lifetime, Elvis thought these tribute acts were funny, but suggested they create their own original acts instead of copying him. However, Colonel Parker saw them as fake Elvises, similar to people selling fake records. He wanted a way to make money from these tribute acts, which he thought were taking advantage of the public's love for Elvis. In 1978, Colonel Parker worked with Broadcast Music Incorporated to try to create a system where people who wanted to perform more than 3 Elvis songs in one show would need special permission. However, this plan didn't work because BMI didn't own the rights to all of Elvis's songs. After Elvis passed away, his estate, led by Priscilla, also wanted to control the tribute acts. They said they wanted to protect Elvis's image, but really they wanted to make money from the tribute acts. They sent letters to the impersonators, telling them to stop performing without permission. However, most of the Elvis impersonators ignored these letters. 10 years after Elvis's death, Elvis Presley Enterprises, EPE, decided to take action against Johnny Spence, a popular Elvis impersonator. Spence had been doing Elvis shows since the early 1970s in clubs in his hometown of Rockford, Illinois. He had built up his own fan base and was very successful. In 1987, Spence planned a big concert at a stadium to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Elvis's death. He asked EPE for permission, but they said no. When they heard he was going to do the show anyway, EPE's lawyer wrote to Spence, telling him to cancel the show. The lawyer said, "We own the rights to Elvis's name, look, and image. You can't use his name or do an Elvis act without permission. You must stop right now." Spence was upset when he received a notice from a lawyer. The notice said that he couldn't impersonate Elvis anymore. Spence argued that he couldn't stop being Elvis because it's a part of who he is. He thought this notice was a threat to all Elvis impersonators. Spence's lawyer, Jay Ross, agreed with him. Jay said that this notice wasn't just a problem for Elvis impersonators, but for all performers who do imitations. He wondered how far this could go. "If this is allowed," he said, "it means that a performer or their family could control how their voice and image are used. That's not fair. What if George Washington's family started demanding money every time someone used a dollar bill?" After a long dispute, a settlement was reached outside of court. However, lawyers for the Elvis estate wanted to take a case to court to establish their rights over all Elvis impersonators. A test case finally made it to court involving Rod Russin, the producer of a traveling stage show called The Big L Show. The show was a tribute to Elvis, starring a performer named Larry Seth who looked and sounded like Elvis. The show sold merchandise with a picture of Larry that closely resembled Elvis. The Big L Show started in 1975, before Elvis's death, and was advertised as a tribute to him. The show even used the same music that Elvis used to open his performances. More than 50,000 fans attended a concert by The Big L Show just a week after Elvis's death, despite bad weather. EPE accused Rod Russin of unfair competition and trademark infringement. They claimed that The Big L Show was hurting their business and making people think it was an official Elvis show. EPE wanted money and for the show to be stopped. The case went to court, and at first it seemed like EPE won. The judge said that Elvis's name and image belonged to his estate and ordered the show to stop using anything that looked like Elvis, including his logo and picture. A judge made a key decision that has allowed all American Elvis tribute acts to continue performing. The judge decided that Larry Seth's Elvis show did not unfairly compete with the official Elvis Presley brand. The judge did not think that people would confuse Larry Seth with the real Elvis. He also disagreed that Larry Seth's show made it harder for Elvis Presley Enterprises to make money by licensing Elvis's image. The judge believed that an Elvis impersonator has the freedom to perform without needing permission from anyone, as it is a form of free speech. The Graceland Estate's lawyers didn't give up. They went after a show in Las Vegas called Legends in Concert. The show's lawyer, Mark Trottoir, pointed out that the estate only targets the most successful Elvis impersonators. He noted that they ignore most of the other tribute acts. This made Trottoir think that the estate was more interested in making money than in protecting Elvis's image. He didn't mind them trying to make a profit, but he thought it was hypocritical of them to claim they were protecting Elvis's image when really they were just after the money. At first, Elvis Presley Enterprises, EPE, tried to stop tribute acts through the law, but it didn't work, so they changed their approach and ignored them for a while. Now EPE has a new policy. They support and organize competitions for Elvis impersonators. They see these acts as a way to make money, rather than a threat to their business. A good Elvis impersonator has their own fans and sells their own merchandise and music. But they also help promote other Elvis products and activities. For example, someone who goes to a tribute show might buy an Elvis record or poster, or even plan a trip to Memphis and stay in a hotel owned by Graceland. They might also attend Elvis Week and watch the Ultimate Elvis Tribute Artist Final, which is held in Memphis every August. The first Elvis impersonator contest in Memphis was held in 1987. It wasn't an official event at first. A man named Dr. Ed Franklin is credited with starting competitive Elvis contests. He used to care for Elvis's horses. The contest happened at a nightclub called Bad Bob's Vapors, which was owned by Franklin. A man named Polston remembers how it started. He had already been selling costumes that looked like Elvis's, and he was the first person to come up with the idea to sell them. In 2007, a company called Elvis Presley Enterprises started a yearly competition to find the best Elvis impersonator. They looked for someone who could best represent Elvis's legacy. 24 acts from around the world, who had already won smaller competitions, went to Memphis to compete against each other. Sean Clush from Pennsylvania won the very first title in 2007. An Englishman named Ben Portsmouth was the first non-American to win the Elvis contest in 2012. The next year, Dean Z from Missouri won the title. After he won, it was announced that the next year's winner would get a big prize package. This included $20,000 in cash, a chance to perform with a well-known show, and a special belt. The Memphis contest is considered the most important one, but there are Elvis competitions happening all over the world almost every week of the year. The company that runs Elvis's estate, EPE, is now very committed to promoting Elvis tribute acts and is always looking for new places to hold competitions. They tell potential venues that the Ultimate Elvis Tribute Artist Contest is a great opportunity to attract music fans of all ages. They target music festivals, theaters, and casinos, anywhere that can host a fun and exciting event. EPE sells this opportunity as a way for venues to offer a complete entertainment package to their audience. By hosting the contest, venues can team up with the most famous entertainment brand in the world and get media attention locally and globally. To enter the contest, Elvis tribute acts are judged on 4 things: how well they sing, how well they look and style themselves like Elvis, their stage clothes, and how well they capture Elvis's charm. Singing is the most important part of the competition, making up 40% of the judges' scores at the final event. Dean Z is a 29-year-old performer who travels the world doing his Elvis act. He regularly appears in a show in Branson, Missouri, alongside other people who look and sound like famous singers like Johnny Cash and Celine Dion. Dean has been performing professionally for 12 years and says he has dedicated his life to being like Elvis. He first saw a TV show about Elvis when he was 3 years old and felt a strong connection to him. He started dancing and singing like Elvis and even wore a special jumpsuit made by his mom. Dean performed at his sister's school talent show when he was young, singing along to an Elvis record and shaking his hips, which made the crowd scream with excitement. He was hooked from that moment on. When Dorian Baxter was 5 years old, he was playing with his new toy fire truck when he heard Elvis on the radio singing Heartbreak Hotel. This was more than 30 years before someone named Dean Z also discovered Elvis at a young age. The people who sell tickets to see Elvis impersonators use a lot of excitement and exaggeration to promote their shows. Ben Portsmouth's agent says that Ben and his band are so good, you'll feel like you're seeing the real Elvis from his early days in 1954 to 1977. Dean Z's promoters claim that his show is so realistic, women scream with excitement just like they did when Elvis performed. After the show, fans can buy Dean Z t-shirts and other Elvis memorabilia. It's easy to become an Elvis impersonator. All you need is a flashy costume. However, it's hard to stand out from the crowd and be successful. At the competitions, everyone seems friendly, but beneath the surface, it's a tough and competitive world. The best Elvis impersonators can win fame, prestige, and big money. In Memphis, during Elvis Week, there are many people dressed as Elvis, all trying to be the best. One experienced Elvis impersonator, Rob Langford from Alabama, used to perform on stage in Memphis. He was a soldier in the Army before becoming an Elvis tribute artist. Rob last performed in Memphis in 2007. However, he has stopped taking part in competitions. He says that Elvis impersonators are very competitive and it's too much for him. Before a contest, he would see many men putting on flashy costumes and makeup, which made him uncomfortable. A longtime Elvis fan says that being a fan has changed over the years. One reason is that Elvis tribute acts have become more popular. In the past, fans only cared about Elvis himself, his music, and his movies. Now, many fans also like the tribute artists who impersonate Elvis. Some of these tribute artists even have their own fan base. Young girls talk about their favorite tribute artists and which ones they prefer. The competitions between tribute artists have also raised the standard of their performances, making some of them really impressive. According to Polston, Elvis tribute acts have helped keep his memory alive. If it was just up to Elvis Presley Enterprises, they wouldn't be able to reach as many people around the world. The tribute acts are helping to introduce Elvis to a new, younger audience. However, it seems that younger people are not as interested in Elvis tribute acts as their parents are. In 2013, a Time magazine article reported that the number of Elvis impersonator bookings had decreased by 20% from 2011 to 2012. The bookings for 2013 were also not much better. A wedding planner in Las Vegas said that younger couples don't want Elvis-themed weddings anymore. They think it's cheesy and old-fashioned. Instead, they want simple and affordable weddings. Only older couples are still interested in Elvis weddings. Google searches for Elvis impersonators have been going down. This might be because younger people who use the internet more are not as interested in Elvis impersonators as older people are. But this doesn't mean that people are losing interest in Elvis. According to Gary Hahn, a marketing executive at Graceland, the number of Elvis impersonators or searches for them isn't a good measure of how much people like Elvis. Our business at Graceland and around the world is actually doing very well. Many people who have been fans of Elvis for a long time don't pay much attention to the tribute bands that perform Elvis's music. Mary Hancock Hines is a good example. She goes to Memphis every year during Elvis Week to visit friends, eat good food, and have fun. She also goes to remember Elvis. However, she isn't interested in the tribute acts or the contest to find the best Elvis impersonator. She says it's a different world that she and her friends don't really care about. Many Elvis fans are strongly against tribute acts, thinking they disrespect Elvis's memory. Robert Alanes, a collector of Elvis memorabilia, dislikes them and calls them fake Elvises. He believes they harm Elvis's reputation. Elvis Presley Enterprises used to dislike the tribute artists, but now they support them. This change has upset some fans, who think they are promoting them too much. Some fans were angry when Graceland's 2013 Elvis Week Festival featured many impersonators. Alanis thinks some older fans like impersonators because they want to relive their younger years. He believes they are making it hard for people to let Elvis's memory rest. Pilgrims visiting St. David's Cathedral in Wales might see a surprising sign on the way. It shows the name of St. Elvis, a real saint who is believed to have baptized St. David, the patron saint of Wales. Some people might not like impersonators, Rob Langford says. He thinks there are some things that impersonators like him should not do. As long as Rob respects Elvis, he feels okay about how he performs as the king. When he's on stage, Rob says it's more important to entertain the audience than to get everything perfect. Nobody can be exactly like Elvis, and that's not what people want. They just want to have a good time. Some websites, like e57.com, help people find an Elvis impersonator for their events. They offer different styles of Elvis, from his early days to his later years. Some fans are very particular and want everything to be just right. They might even correct the impersonator if they wear an outfit from the wrong time period or sing a song that doesn't match. One Elvis impersonator, Geraint Benny from Wales, said he got death threats from extreme fans in 2006. They were mad because he was bald, which they thought was not true to Elvis's image. Geraint's show is a bit unusual. He comes out of a golden coffin and cooks burgers on stage with his band, The Undertakers. While some people might not like his show, getting death threats is a very serious overreaction. There are different kinds of Elvis impersonators. Some, like Elvis Presley, do it for fun and to make people laugh. Others take their job very seriously. Most Elvis tribute acts are serious about performing like the real Elvis. They want people to feel like they're seeing the real thing. They also use their performances to help raise money for charities and share the happiness they get from Elvis's music. Being Elvis can be a thrill. Rob Langford says, "When I go into a room as Elvis, people get excited. But if I went in as myself, nobody would care. To be Elvis, you have to give up being yourself." David Moore performs Elvis songs at the Heartbreak Hotel in Memphis. He says he sings Elvis because he wants to show people what Elvis was really like: kind, generous, and humble. David has loved Elvis since he was 5 years old and feels like singing like Elvis is a special gift. He's had people tell him that listening to him sing makes them feel like they're hearing Elvis himself. Some people have even cried and told him that his singing gave them hope after losing a loved one. David remembers one time he performed at a house where a man who was paralyzed from the neck down was sitting in a chair surrounded by Elvis pictures. Clayton Benke Smith, an Elvis impersonator, says that to truly be like Elvis, you have to live and breathe like him. This means eating, sleeping, and feeling like the king. Patty Carroll photographed many Elvis impersonators for a project and noticed something interesting. When they wear the Elvis costume and listen to his music, they start to feel like they really are Elvis. Many people who impersonate Elvis say they feel like he's inside them and that they change when they perform. Bert Hathaway, an Elvis impersonator, said, "When I'm waiting to go on stage, I can feel Elvis's spirit with me, and I become him. This feeling can also be felt by the audience." A journalist named John Strasbaugh saw an Elvis impersonator named Greg Peters perform at a restaurant in New York City. First, nothing seemed special. The restaurant was ordinary, and Peters didn't look like a superstar. He's a small guy with black hair and fake sideburns, and he performed with just a tape machine for music. But then, something unexpected happened during the show. Something special takes over Peter. The spirit of Elvis Presley fills him, transforming him into a confident and charismatic performer. For a few minutes, the ordinary bar becomes an exciting stage, and Peter is in complete control. The audience cheers wildly, and women gather at the front to get a scarf from him. Everyone is clapping along to the music, especially during the final song, Trilogy. A little boy, no more than 4 years old, stands off stage, wearing a miniature version of Elvis's famous jumpsuit. He watches Peter's every move and copies his dance gestures. When Peter kneels down and reaches out his hand, the little boy does the same, and their hands touch. It's like a special connection is being made. But then it's over. The magic leaves the room as quickly as it arrived. The spirit of Elvis moves on to find another performer to inspire. The Professional Elvis Impersonators Association explains on its website what it's like to be an Elvis impersonator. An impersonator is someone who copies Elvis's looks and acts. To do this, they wear a wig that looks like Elvis's hair with sideburns and a certain style. They also wear flashy clothes with rhinestones and jewelry, just like Elvis did. In addition to looking like Elvis, impersonators also try to sound like him by singing and talking in his style. For people who get paid to dress up and perform as Elvis at parties and events, this is a good way to describe their job. This also applies to those who put on full Elvis shows. However, they might feel that this description doesn't quite capture what they do. When someone performs as Elvis, they need to really get into the character and connect with the king's spirit. This means becoming one with the image of someone who is truly admired and even idolized by many fans. Contemporary Elvis impersonators follow a very old pattern of human behavior called imitatio Dei. This idea is found in both Christianity and Judaism, and means that by trying to be like God or a godlike figure, people can feel closer to God. It comes from the idea that humans are made in God's image. A long time ago, people started a tradition in many religions where they would imitate or copy the actions of their gods. They would act out the gods' stories and deeds through rituals, hoping to connect with the divine again. When a Christian priest says a prayer over bread and wine, they are acting out what Jesus did at the Last Supper. Jesus told his followers to repeat this act to remember him. In a similar way, an Elvis tribute artist pretends to be Elvis to share his music with the audience. According to author Karen Armstrong, most people connect with a higher power through something on earth, like a person. It's common for people to experience something spiritual or divine through someone who doesn't seem perfect. The amazing part is that people can have a spiritual experience at all. It might seem strange that someone like Elvis could be a symbol of the divine, but the same could be said about Jesus, who was crucified like a common criminal. Gregory Reese from the University of Alabama has studied why people love Elvis so much. He thinks the people who dress up and perform like Elvis are more like entertainers than serious devotees. Reese thinks that if Elvis impersonators had to explain the heart of their job, they would use language from the entertainment business. However, this isn't true. A seasoned impersonator named David Moore says it's a special talent given by God. Others talk about dedicating themselves to Elvis and feeling his spirit inside them. This sounds like spiritual language, not just show business talk. Researchers William Brown and Ben Fraser studied how fans feel about Elvis and said it's like a form of worship. They interviewed fans and impersonators and found that some fans who really admire and idolize Elvis have a kind of worship-like devotion to him. For some people, their sense of self is closely tied to their image of Elvis, not just as a performer, but as a friend, romantic partner, family man, and patriotic citizen. They may not realize it, but they're essentially worshiping him. Humans have a strong desire to look up to something or someone, and if they don't believe in a higher power or don't have a strong faith, they may start to idolize a person instead. It's clear that this is what's happening with Elvis. Some Christian priests and pastors do a special kind of performance where they pretend to be Elvis Presley, the famous singer. They don't think Elvis was a real priest, but they think being like him can help them with their work as priests. For them, being Elvis is a part of their job as a priest. One example is Reverend Ravi Holy, who takes care of 8 churches in a village called Y in Kent. Before becoming a priest, Ravi was in a rock band. When he was training to be a priest, he found out that he was good at pretending to be Elvis. He even played the part of Pharaoh in a musical, which is a character that is supposed to be like Elvis. He also visited a local school dressed as Elvis. He says that Elvis is someone that everyone knows and likes, and that it's a fun way to connect with people of all ages. Ravi was discussing funeral plans with a family who had lost a loved one. They wanted the service to be happy and celebratory, not too sad. Ravi agreed, but said, "Remember, it's still a funeral." But then the family surprised him by saying, "Actually, our mother would have loved it if you dressed up as Elvis." They really wanted Ravi to wear an Elvis costume and conduct the service that way. Ravi wasn't sure, so he asked his colleagues and they were divided. Some thought it was a bad idea, while others were okay with it. Ravi also talked to the bishop, who thought it was a great way to connect with people in the village who didn't normally go to church. The parish church was full of people on the day of the funeral. The coffin was brought in to the sound of lively music, which then changed to a song called "That's All Right, Mama." The priest, Ravi, was dressed in a shiny gold jacket, sunglasses, and a wig, making him look like Elvis. He wore a special collar around his neck to show he was a priest. Ravi said the family had asked him to dress up as Elvis, and he thought it was a good way to show God's message. He believed that if Jesus were alive today, he might dress up as Elvis if it would help people. Ravi was careful not to take the Elvis costume too far, and he took off the wig when it was time to say prayers. After the service, some people who had thought the idea was strange agreed that it had been a special and uplifting experience. Reverend Ravi Holy does Elvis impersonations, but it's just a small part of his work as a priest. However, Reverend Dorian Baxter, also known as Elvis Presley, has used his Elvis act to create a unique public ministry. He didn't start doing Elvis impressions until 1996, when his daughters encouraged him to enter a contest. He won a big prize, and when the organizers found out he was a priest, they asked him to be their spiritual advisor. That night, Reverend Baxter says many people came forward. Many people lined up from midnight to 4:30 a.m. They wanted to go back to church because of Elvis. This made more people want to hear Elvis Presley preach. Everyone loves Elvis, and he loved Jesus. Elvis had a special way of bringing people together. Dorian Baxter didn't get as much support from his leaders, so he had to start his own church. Today, he is in charge of the Christ the King Graceland Independent Anglican Church of Canada. In 2003, he was given the title of bishop by the Communion of Evangelical Episcopal Churches. Later that year, He formed the Federation of Independent Anglican Churches of North America and became its leader. Elvis Presley is a well-known and interesting person. Like many people who pretend to be Elvis, he has many fans. Over 4,000 people on his Facebook page say they are fans. Elvis impersonators now often perform weddings. Many couples choose to get married in Las Vegas at a chapel where they can hire an Elvis lookalike to lead the ceremony. The Las Vegas Graceland Chapel offers a Loving You package for $329. This includes the use of the chapel, an Elvis impersonator to walk the bride down the aisle, and 3 Elvis songs. The newlywed couple also receives a special holder for their marriage certificate, which features a copy of Elvis and Priscilla's own certificate. At Viva Las Vegas, couples can choose a unique wedding option. Our Elvis weddings are fun and affordable. One popular choice is the Pink Caddy wedding. This special ceremony features a 1964 pink Cadillac that drives into the chapel with Elvis at the wheel and the bride and groom inside. The ceremony includes colorful lights and fog for a memorable atmosphere. The Pink Caddy wedding is a one-of-a-kind experience that many couples love. We have many different wedding packages to choose from. You might like the Blue Hawaii package, which includes a tropical setting, hula dancers, and special lighting effects. Another option is the Doo-Wop Diner package, where you can get married in a fun, retro-style diner. We have over 12 different packages to choose from, so you can pick the one that's right for you. There is a new wedding chapel at Graceland called the Chapel in the Woods. Couples can get married near Elvis's home, but an Elvis impersonator cannot perform the ceremony. The chapel can fit 2 to 50 people and is available for rent. It costs almost $800, but is cheaper on certain days of the week. The rental includes 30 minutes for the ceremony and 15 minutes for photos on the Graceland steps. A photographer costs an extra $350. A priest helps people connect with a higher power by acting as a bridge. In many religions, priests are thought to be chosen by God and must study for a long time. Elvis impersonators also talk about being called to perform. They have to learn many Elvis songs and practice his dance moves. There are over 600 songs to learn, and the most famous ones must be memorized to do a good show. Some of the first Elvis impersonators feel like they have special permission to perform because they were chosen by Elvis himself. For example, Douglas Roy was invited on stage by Elvis to sing Hound Dog and was given a lucky rabbit's foot as a gift. Another impersonator, Dave Carlson, performed on stage in 1975 and Elvis was amazed by how much he looked like him. The Catholic Church doesn't want priests to get married because they think it would distract them from their job. It's different for Elvis impersonators, who often get married. However, their wives might find it strange that their husbands have to act sexy on stage. In 1989, Clayton Benke Smith was performing when the crowd went wild, shouting "Elvis! Elvis!" He was almost pulled off the stage, but he enjoyed the excitement. Some wives are okay with their husband's Elvis act. Linda, the wife of Elvis impersonator Bert Hathaway, said that when women scream and try to kiss her husband, they're not really interested in him as a person. They're just excited about the image of Elvis that he's portraying. Linda thinks it's exciting to see the reaction of the women in the audience. Some partners have had trouble in their relationships because their husband is also an Elvis impersonator. It can be hard for wives to deal with the fact that their husband is getting so much attention from many women when he's performing. To understand why Elvis is so popular, we need to look beyond just numbers and how strongly his fans feel about him. We also need to think about the kind of feelings they have, which seem to be similar to the feelings people have about their faith. Many fans talk about their love for Elvis like it's a spiritual experience, similar to finding a sense of community in a church. When they visit Graceland, it's like making a pilgrimage to a sacred place.